What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own fantasy football huddle, presented as always as DanklyfeBrand, Let's Talk Sports, and Shank It Golf Brand. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I got to apologize to y'all for missing out on this last week's live NFL kickoff show. I pinched a nerve in my back, believe it or not. I don't know what the hell I did, but it's still kind of bothering me. So excuse me if I don't have as much energy as I usually do on today's episode. But nonetheless, today's episode is going to be very important to pay attention to. We had an absolute slew of huge injuries in fantasy football this week. You're lucky if you aren't dealing with at least one big injury on your lineup right now. You're looking at, we're going to have a much more fun waiver wire episode than we've had over the last couple of weeks. But like I said, that means that we're dealing with a lot more injuries. You got Justin Jefferson going to IR with a hamstring injury. You got Devon A-Chain missing 2 to 3 weeks with a knee injury. You got Khalil Herbert going to be out the next couple of weeks. His backup, who would be one of the top additions on the waiver wire, who we're going to talk about, Roschon Johnson, did suffer a concussion this week as well. And then, of course, the big one for me, Anthony Richardson, AR5, looking to miss at least a month with an AC joint sprain. Looking to get second opinions, but he's definitely going to miss some time. Then you got James Conner going to injured reserve. Miles Sanders playing through an injury. Everybody's dealing with something right now. So we definitely have a lot of information to get into. So fill up your cups, roll something up, and let's get right into the waiver wires before we get into week 6 in your fantasy football season. And hopefully you got at least 3-4 wins under your belt. And if not, we got to make some moves. So make sure you pay attention to today's episode and make sure you pay attention to the trade episode that we got coming this week as well. So moving on into the quarterbacks, as we typically like to do here, as we like to follow the way that your roster is set on the Huddle Chat Sports Network. We're going to start with the quarterbacks, and I'm looking at Matt Stafford being a good addition in the waiver wire this week. He's going to be on a good, now that you got Cooper Kupp back, now this offense is kind of rolling and got all of its pieces, at least for the moment. They're going to be rolling and going to be a good offense, at least for the foreseeable future. They do also play the Arizona Cardinals, which is a very good matchup. So I like Matt Stafford this week. I'm also liking Sam Howell. He does have a decent matchup this week with the Atlanta Falcons, who we are going to be speaking about a little bit later. He is 4th amongst quarterbacks right now in pass attempts, so you're getting really good upside from the amount that he's throwing the ball. I do think a big part of what's making Sam Howell struggle is his offensive line is allowing a lot of sacks at the current moment, and you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons being one of the worst teams in the NFL at getting pressure. They only have 1 sack on the season. We'll see which is going to be the dominating trait, not allowing a lot of sacks or not getting a lot of sacks. But I do like Sam Howell and his potential this week. Some of the lower level additions as well. Looking at Bryce Young from the Panthers, he also has elite pass attempt upsides. It's not surprising to see this young man throw 45 passes in a game at this point. And then also Gardner Minshew from the Indianapolis Colts is going to be an easy streaming option for those that lost Anthony Richardson this week. He throws a lot, and he throws more than Anthony Richardson did as well, and he's been efficient while doing it. One of the better backups in the NFL, and I'm happy to have him on the Colts roster, and you'd be happy to have him if you're in a pinch this week. Now, we are looking at the running backs now at this point. Like I said, Roschon Johnson did suffer a concussion last week, and typically suffering a concussion is an automatic. You're going to be out next week. However, it was on the Thursday night football game last week, so it is possible that he plays. So he's definitely worth the ad, because even if he misses this week, Khalil Herbert's going to be out a couple of weeks, and Roschon Johnson is going to be the better running back in that backfield moving forward until Khalil Herbert comes back, and he may even carve out a larger role before Khalil Herbert comes back as well. Then behind him, Deontay Foreman, you're definitely going to see him being activated and getting playing time this week and the next few weeks as well. And especially if Roschon Johnson misses time, you're looking at Deontay Foreman being basically the only running back on the roster that's going to be starting. So you're going to be starting him immediately in your offense this week as well, possibly flex consideration. I also really do like Amari Demercado from the Arizona Cardinals. With James Conner missing a lot of time, he may be the most valuable running back behind James Conner. However, I am afraid that they may do a running back by committee, 2 or 3 running back by committee. None of these running backs are as good as James Conner, and James Conner was playing decent, but he wasn't tearing the hinges off fantasy football. I think he's like running back 14, 15. He's a low-end RB2. So, the better running back on the team isn't really performing that well. So temper your expectations, but Amari Demercado definitely is going to be worth a fantastic addition on your roster this week. Moving on to the pass catchers, starting with the wide receivers. I'm talking about KJ Osborne with Justin Jefferson being out. Addison is going to be the number 1 wide receiver here. So if he is available, then you definitely want to grab him. However, KJ Osborne being available in 90% of leagues is where we're going to kind of be targeting in our waiver wire videos. And Minnesota is still going to throw a ton, even if you think that they're going to be less pass heavy without Justin Jefferson. They still are a passing offense and will throw a ton. I like KJ Osborne. I do also like Quentin Johnston, maybe not as somebody that I can start this week. I'm not jamming him into my lineup, but he is a round 1 wide receiver on an elite offense. And he's very explosive to add on to that, and his role is growing in this offense. I definitely like Quentin Johnston, and if you can stash him, definitely do that. And here, we're going to be using him extremely soon. So definitely not going to be holding on to Quentin Johnston and wondering what he's going to do very long. Pay attention to those games here over the next couple of weeks. Also, Josh Downs from the Indianapolis Colts. He's going to be more immediate production than Quentin Johnston. Maybe a little less consistent. He's a good fill-in, a good flex position when you're looking at these injuries, looking at these bye weeks. Gardner Minshew throws to Josh Downs more than Anthony Richardson was, and Anthony Richardson runs a lot. So Gardner Minshew throwing more to Josh Downs than Anthony Richardson was, and Josh Downs having a larger target share without Anthony Richardson being the offense may actually bode better for Josh Downs. So I definitely like him in this offense and as an addition to your roster. Now moving on to the tight ends, Logan Thomas is going to be my favorite tight end to add on this list here. He's a low tight end 1 for the remainder of the season moving forward. Last week was kind of his only outlier so far in the season, but Logan Thomas has been absolutely killing it this year. I do like Luke Musgrave from the Packers. You've heard me talk about him a lot, but the results have not been fantastic yet, large in part because he has not scored a touchdown yet. He does, however, have a solid role in a decent offense. So Luke Musgrave is at least worth an option, especially if you're struggling at tight end. Another great addition is going to be Jonnu Smith. You're looking at him playing the best ball of his career, and he's second amongst tight ends in receiving yards, especially if you're struggling with tight end and you need a tight end right now. Jonnu Smith may definitely be worth a flyer. A couple of players that I'm going to be stashing on my roster, not necessarily looking to start them right away. I'm looking at Zach Charbonnet. He's the highest upside handcuff that's not startable at the current moment. But if something was to happen to Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet is going to be that man. And if you have that roster space, definitely worth an addition. Tajay Spears from the Tennessee Titans is also worth an addition. He's not going to overtake Derrick Henry, but he's playing over half the snaps right now. And if anything does happen to Derrick Henry, that's going to be a solid starting running back for you. So both of them are going to be worth an addition. And for the first time here on the Fantasy Football Huddle, we're talking about defenses for you to pick up here on your waiver wires this week. I do like Kansas City at home versus Denver. What more do you need to say than Kansas City at home against the Denver Broncos? Not much more needs to be said than that. I really do like the Dolphins defense versus the Panthers. That's going to be a great matchup for them. They get lots of sacks, a lot of interception potential with Bryce Young dropping back for 45 passes a game. So Dolphins D is definitely going to be a very great option for you this week. I do also like the Lions at the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are coming off the bye week, so temper your expectations a little bit. However, Baker Mayfield is prone to mistakes, and you see that Lions defense being really good at generating pressure. Another low-level addition on the defensive side of the ball is going to be the Atlanta Falcons versus the Washington Commanders. The Commanders do have one of the worst offensive lines right now behind the Houston Texans that have been injured for the most part. So it's kind of like I said when we were talking about Sam Howell earlier. If you think that this offensive line is going to allow this defense that has only generated 1 sack so far to get more pressure, get more sacks, and get that interception potential, then definitely go with it. If not, go Sam Howell. But I do like the Atlanta Falcons if you need a defensive option this week. That's going to do it for today's waiver wire episode here on the Fantasy Football Huddle. Check out the trade episodes we got coming on. Check out the startums and sit-ems, and check out our bold predictions as well. And always make sure you tune in to this week's live episode that we're going to be doing on Sunday about 9:30 Mountain Standard Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Not really going to be an if. I'm going to be there this week. Ain't nothing stopping me from this week. So I'll see y'all there. Keep your chin up and your attitude down. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.